Welcome back to the farm. Today I will show you how to make a simple egg washer. When I first heard about egg washers, I was thinking it was kind of like a dishwasher for your eggs. But that's not it at all. Eggs are fragile. Not only can they break easily, but they're permeable. So any sort of force of water will get inside the egg, and you do not want that when you are cleaning your eggs. So instead, it's more like a hot tub for your eggs. What it does is it gently bubbles, and that bubbling will create agitation in the water that will gently clean any dirt you have on the eggs. So let's get to it. Let's start with how an egg washer actually works. So what you have is a bucket that you fill with water. You have a basket you place your eggs into, and then you have an air supply. The air supply will inject bubbles underneath the eggs in the water, and as those bubbles are rising through the water, it creates an agitation in the water. And that agitation, just a little bit movement of water from those bubbles, is what actually helps scrub the eggs clean. Now, it won't scrub everything off the eggs, but it is gentle enough that it can clean 90% of the eggs and give you clean eggs in the end. So you'll need a few things for this. You'll need a bucket. I chose a 3.5 gallon bucket because it fits easily in my kitchen sink. I don't have to do it outside then. You'll need a basket. This basket holds a little over a dozen eggs. I usually wash about a dozen at a time. And I'll leave links to everything in the description below. You also need an air supply. We have 3 different air supplies to show you today. We can use a regular air compressor. If you do choose to use an air compressor, make sure it is at least 4 CFM. And I would set the regulator to about 20 psi for this to work the best. Another option is a heavy-duty aquarium pump. This one is 950 gallons per hour. I go anywhere from 900 to 1200 gallons per hour. The last option, and the least expensive, is an inflation pump. This is a heavy-duty one. I would not use most of them that you find available online. This one has a vent. Because you're not flowing a ton of air through it, this pump will get hot, and you need some sort of vent to help get the heat out of it. So I will leave the description for both this pump and the aquarium pump in the description below if you'd like to purchase those. Other things you will need are some PVC pipe and fittings, depending on which version of the pump you use. And then I install a 1 inch to 1 3/8 rubber stopper in the bucket so I can simply pull the plug and let it drain. Okay, let's start with the air compressor or the aquarium pump version of this. We start with some 1/2 inch PVC pipes and a handful of fittings here. You only need 2 pieces at 7 inches in length and 1 piece at 10 inches in length if you are using the 3.5 gallon bucket. If you go with a 5 gallon bucket, these dimensions may vary a little bit. You'll need 2 pieces at 1.25 inches in length. You will also need a side exit T that has 1/2 inch PVC on all fittings. You will need 2 45-degree elbows, 2 caps, and you will need 1 elbow that's PVC on one end and 1/2 inch NPT thread on the other end. You also want a drill and an 1/8 inch drill bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our 7 inch pieces. We're going to measure to put some holes in these to let the air out. So we're going to put the holes at 2 inch from the end, 3.5, and 5 inch. And it doesn't matter which end you measure from because it'll be even. And then you go from that measurement 180 degrees. And you'll measure 2 3/4 and 4 1/4. So that you're in between the other holes. And we'll do the same thing with the other pipe. And now we assemble. So we're going to start with our side exit elbow. We're going to insert the short 1.25 inch pieces into 2 of the exits. And then we'll take our 45-degree elbows and stick them onto the short pieces coming out. And you want to get the 45s as close to the side exit elbow as you can. Then we'll take the pieces we drilled the holes in and insert them with the 3 holes pointing towards the center. We'll take our caps and put them on the ends. Side of the bucket is tipped just a little bit out, so you want this to be flat on the bottom and you want that pipe to kind of follow the side of the bucket. I do not glue mine because then I can make adjustments if necessary. We'll take our 10-inch piece, insert that into the 3rd outlet of the side exit elbow. This assembly is for both the air compressor version and the aquarium pump version. Now this is where these two will differ. So you take your elbow that's got PVC on one and thread on the other, and if we are going with the air compressor, we will insert a step down, a reducer, and then we'll insert some sort of valve. You want to be able to control the airflow coming through. And then quick disconnect fitting that fits with your air hose. And then we tighten it all together. If we're going to use the Aquarium Air Pump, we'll take our elbow with the PVC and the thread, and we'll somehow get down to 1/4 inch ID hose. And again, we just tighten this in. And you can use either one on the 1/2 inch pipe. If we're going to use the inflator pump, we're going to go with 1-inch PVC fittings, and these are going to be a little bit different length. You're going to go with a 12-inch piece, 2 6-inch pieces, and 2 1 3/4 pieces. But again, we have the side exit elbow with all 3 at 1 inch. We have 2 45-degree elbows, and we have caps. We also will have a rubber coupler for 1-inch PVC. And assembling this will be similar but not the same. We're going to start with putting the caps on, and then inserting the pipe, the 6-inch pipes, into the elbows. This time we're going to drill 1/16-inch holes, simply because the volume of this pump is so great that with the 1/8-inch holes the bubbles are just too big and it gets a little too violent for the eggs. And instead of 5 large holes per tube, we're going to go with 15 small holes per tube. And you're going to just kind of space most of them on the inside with a few on the outside. Now that we got the holes drilled in, we can insert the short sections of PVC and connect it to the side exit elbow. And then put the 12-inch section in, last outlet. You're going to want this at a slight angle, simply because of the shape of the bucket. And this will fit directly on top, like that. But we'll wait to put it on until we insert it into the bucket. Now onto the bucket. We are going to put a hole in the bucket for our rubber stopper. This is optional. You don't have to do it this way. I just like doing this because when I'm done washing the eggs in the kitchen sink, I simply pull the plug and let it drain out. So I'm going to drill a 1 1/8 inch hole in the bucket for the stopper. And you don't want the stopper tight up against the edge because it won't seal very well. You want it back just a little bit. So kind of make a mental note of where you want the hole. Then using your 1 1/8 drill bit, you put the hole in. And the stopper just fits right in perfectly. I've used 1-inch holes before, and the stopper gets a little tight in there and it doesn't quite seal fully. This will stop up to 1 3/8. So you can use 1 1/4 if that's what's available, or you can use a 1-inch. Just be aware that with a 1-inch it may not seal fully, so you will either have to be in the sink or somewhere outside where you don't mind it leaking out the plug. Now we're going to set up our PVC pipes so they sit in here well. What I do is I simply drop it in, hold this up against the side of the bucket, and then just push down on the pipes so they sit down. And we're going to do that with the larger size as well. And there we go. Now it's time to wash the eggs. We're going to fill our bucket with warm water. You don't want it hot, but you don't want it cool. So a little bit over lukewarm is good. Ideally 95 degrees or so is good. I'm going to add just a drop or two of plain Dawn dish soap. You can get specific egg wash stuff, and that's perfectly fine. I just use Dawn dish soap. We'll start with the air compressor version. We'll take air injector here. We will set it into the bucket. It's okay if it gets some water into it. It's going to happen either way. Then we are going to put some eggs in our basket to clean. 18 is probably about a safe number for this basket. We'll take the eggs and set them in gently right on top of our air injector. And then we want to add a little bit of weight to prevent the eggs from floating out or moving around too much with the air. So we're just going to take a few kitchen plates and set them in on top of the eggs. Just kind of hold them in place. And we will start with our valve at the lowest setting or off. We'll take our air compressor hose, connect it, and you'll hear the bubbles. You just want this is about the correct amount of bubbles. You go any more than this and you will create too much turbulence in there and you could break the eggs. Too little, you won't get enough turbulence. You let it stew in here for about 15 minutes or so. For the Aquarium Air Pump, we simply use this fitting, but the concept is the same. You will put the eggs in on top of the pipe in there. You'll set some weight on top of it. And we'll use our air pump with a section 1/4 inch hose. And with this air pump, we just plug it in, and away it goes. Now this does make a little bit of noise, but it's actually not bad. The baby can sleep right through it. And again, we leave it bubble for about 15 minutes. Alright, it's been about 15 minutes. Let's pull them out and see how they look. We'll pull the plates out, set those to the side, pull the eggs out. We will do a quick rinse on them, again with warm water. We're just going to rinse it to get the soap off. That should be good. Set them on the towel, and they're looking pretty good. Now what we do when we're done is we'll pop this cap off, set the pump to the side. The pump will be a little bit warm, but not hot. Should not be hot. You let it drain, and the reason I take this off is I can just flip it over and dump the rest of the water out. Now I'll quick show you the inflator style pump. It's the same concept. You set it in, and you want it to kind of fill up with water so it stays in place. With those small holes, it takes a couple seconds longer. I clamp the connector onto the inflator, but I do not clamp it onto the pipe because you have to be able to remove this. And then you will mount this on. Plug it in, and I'm just going to show you just a little bit to show you the airflow coming out of it. That seems a little more violent because the eggs are not in there. If the eggs are in there, it doesn't look quite that violent. And again, when we're done running the inflator style pump, let it drain. All the water out of it. And then here's why I like having the plug in there. Simply pull it out. I'm good to go. And there we have 3 cost-effective ways to build an egg washer. Now let's talk about price. For the bucket and the pipe and fittings, it's roughly $10, depends on where you go. If you're using the air compressor version, you should already have an air compressor. If you do not have an air compressor already, it is not cost-effective to buy one for this purpose. If you already have one, make sure it's at least 4 CFM in order to supply enough air for this washer. The second option is the Aquarium Air Pump. That's about the same price in the pipe and fittings and bucket. However, we have to add the cost of the pump in. That pump is about $35, and I'll leave a link for that in the description below. The most cost-effective version is the inflator pump. You're a little bit more in the cost of the pipe and fittings because it is bigger pipe and fittings. However, the pump itself is only about $20, so you save a little bit of money there. And I'll leave a link for the pump I chose in the description below. Of the 3, my favorite is the Aquarium Pump version. The Aquarium Pump is fairly quiet, and it is designed to run 24/7 doing this sort of thing. So, thanks for watching, and until next time, keep on farming.